Today I'm going to be talking about having an unmedicated labor and delivery in a hospital setting. But before I get started, please know I am not a doctor, I'm not your doctor, and any advice that your doctor gives you supersedes any advice I give here. I wanted to give birth naturally simply because I wanted to experience the wild ride of childbirth. And let me tell you, it was wild. It did not disappoint. So today I'm going to be sharing my tips and encouragement for having a natural labor in a hospital setting. Make sure to stick around to the end because I'm going to be talking about the fetal ejection reflex, which you can hit, and it helps you get your baby out right at the very end. So without further ado, let's get started. Probably the most important thing I did to prepare myself for birth was talk to other women about their experiences. So many women have gone before us, so many other women have done this. And when I was experiencing labor myself, I thought about these women that had gone before me. If I had read a certain experience that helped them get through a certain obstacle that I was experiencing, I would think about them, I would apply it to myself, and it helped me get through my whole labor process. So listen to your friends that have done it. I also read some books. My favorite one was the Positive Birth book. I'll put that down in the description. My second tip is to educate yourself. Knowledge is power, baby. That's what they say. And I think you give a lot of your power away if you go into labor and delivery not knowing anything about it. I read the Big Book of Birth. It's pretty quick. You can flip through it. But being educated and knowing a little bit about the process helps you be more confident, helps you be aware about what is going on. And then if your doctor does come in and say, hey, change of plans, we're doing A, B, or C, it's not a scary thing. You know what to expect because you went in educated. My third tip is to not have an induction. Pitocin makes your contractions way more painful. I know this because I have done them both. My first baby, I got induced and then I got an epidural. And my second baby, I went into spontaneous labor and then I also got an epidural. When I got induced, I remember saying, I want to feel what a contraction feels like. Well, I felt like one or two of them and I was done. I could not wait for the anesthesiologist to get there to give me my epidural. With my second baby, I woke up at 4 a.m. dreaming I was in labor. And then I actually had some cramping going on. So I didn't wake up my husband. I just kind of labored in bed. I was timing myself and I'm a huge rule follower. So I was told 1 minute of contractions, 5 minutes in between. And I would be like, oops, that one was 5 minutes and 30 seconds. And my contraction only lasted 45 seconds. So I just kind of labored through the night. I woke up, I took a shower. I told my husband, hey, just stay here with our oldest. I'm just gonna walk to the hospital. We live 5 doors down. I'm sure I'm gonna get sent home. I walked to the hospital. They took forever to come check me. I was a 9. How does that happen? That happens because I thought I knew what a contraction was. I knew what a contraction was on Pitocin, which felt like a 10, a 10, a 10. And then when I spontaneously went into labor, all of these felt like a 5, a 5, a 5. So I convinced myself I wasn't in labor. So if you can avoid it, try not to get induced because that Pitocin really kicks up your contractions a gear. I know if you get up to 41, 42 weeks, your doctor might recommend an induction. Again, follow your doctor's advice. Tip number 4 is not going to surprise you. It is to labor at your house as long as possible. You are in your environment. You are comfortable. You can have the lights low. You can be hugging your own pillow with your own germs. You don't have cords connected to you. It is the vibe. It is the vibe. Baby number 3 is when I did it all naturally. And my doctor told me, based on my baby number 2's experience, you need to get to the hospital as soon as you know you're in labor or you're gonna give birth in your bed. That kind of freaked me out. So as soon as I thought I was in labor, I went to the hospital and I do kind of regret it because I did really truly have to labor. I labored from midnight to 7 a.m. It felt completely different. It did feel more painful from when I was laboring at home with baby number 2. Not only that, but with baby number 2, I was only in labor for 4 hours. And then I was in labor for a full 7 hours with baby number 3. And I do think it has to do with I was not in my environment. A hospital environment is just not as comfortable as your home. The next thing I want to talk about is your nurses. You may have a nurse that is amazing, that has had kids, that maybe did it naturally, that has all these tips and tricks and will hold your hand through it all and move you into different positions. But you may not. My last nurse had only been working for 4 months. She had never delivered anyone naturally. She was great at checking the charts, seeing how dilated I was, but she didn't offer any advice or help to me through the process. So again, go uneducated if you can and be prepared as you can. Don't count on those nurses in a hospital setting to be there to help you. Piggybacking off of that, my next tip is to have a partner ready to assist you. For me, it was my husband. So he was there when I needed him. He changed the music for me in my earbuds. He was there primarily also just to apply counter pressure. So I'm going to put a link in the bottom for what that is. But basically during a contraction, he would be pushing against my back, and that would help me feel better. I had back labor, so I would feel it start getting painful in my back. I would feel it ripple around the side and then come to the front. And he was there to apply counter pressure. So just have a partner there that's gonna help you through the process. There are birthing classes that you can take. I didn't personally have time to do this, and they're a little pricey, but if you want to do that, that's an option that you can do. My next piece of advice is to make sure you tell your nurse you want the least amount of cords and everything on you. So you want to be able to move around your bed, even maybe out into the hallway. I had to have an IV this last time. Again, not comfortable, way not as comfortable as laboring in your bed, but I had an IV so I could just move around my bed and I could move on my bed, but it's annoying. So make sure you have the least amount of things on you so you can be as free as possible. Also, ask your nurses to bring you all the things. So they usually have birthing balls. They also will sometimes have bars that you can lean on and put your weight on. Anything that helps you move into different positions, request that from your nurses to help you along in your process. The next thing I want to talk about are the shakes that you get in between contractions. So in between contractions, you do have moments of peace. Okay, so where it's not that painful, but I would get these crazy shakes, and that is normal. It's your body doing its own concoction of drugs to help you get through the pain. So it's releasing oxytocin and hormones, helping your body progress through this. And I felt that every time I had the shakes in between one of my contractions, the next contraction was less painful. And I thought that was so cool because it's my body just self-medicating itself, helping itself through the process. So be prepared for those and maybe even look forward to them. The next thing I want to talk about are contractions. And the biggest thing, most important thing I want to tell you is that some of my most painful contractions were when I was only dilated to a 6 or 7. And in my mind, if I had told myself this is just going to keep getting worse, I probably would have quit. I would say there were 3 to 5 contractions throughout the whole process where I was like, I'm questioning if I can do this. But those happened earlier on. And then as I progressed to an 8, a 9, a 10, it was not that my contractions kept on getting progressively more painful. So be encouraged with my experience. It didn't necessarily get more and more and more painful as I dilated more and more. So with your contractions, think of it as a bell curve. So you have a lot of time during labor where you're not in a lot of pain. Maybe you're not in any pain at all. And then you'll feel a contraction come on. So it kind of starts, you'll feel it coming on. Okay, so I could prepare my partner, okay, one's coming. And then it gets really painful at the top. I would say a good 10 to 20 seconds on a really painful one. And then I would feel it starting to subside. It would still be painful, and then it would go away. So just know that you're gonna ebb and flow through those contractions. Something I personally did during every contraction was instead of moving away from the pain, I tried to lean into the pain. I tried to help my body along, and I do think this helped. My water was not breaking, and so I finally told the nurse, I'm gonna go through 3 more contractions, and then you can have the doctor come in and break my waters. On the 3rd contraction, I remember telling my husband, oh my gosh, this is a really good one, meaning it hurts really bad. I was squeezing really hard, and then I felt my water break, and it was the best feeling ever. So try to lean into your contractions and not away from the pain would be my advice. On that same note, you need to have a positive mindset during labor. I never once said, this sucks, this is so painful, I can't do this. Those thoughts did not cross my mind. My thinking was, oh my goodness, my body is so powerful. This is such a strong contraction. And then after the contraction was over, I'd tell my husband, I think my body made so much progress on that. Along with that, I kind of talked to my baby. So I'd say, we can do this. We're doing this together. We're gonna be fine. This is gonna make me emotional. And just, it's hard work for them too. So having a positive tape going in your mind, knowing that others have done this before you, knowing that you're gonna meet your baby at the end, talking yourself through that helps your experience so much. The final note I wanna say about this, and I think I read this in the Positive Birth book, which I already talked about, but only a small percentage of your labor, like 7%, is actually really painful. if you look at your whole labor from beginning to end, a lot of it is downtime. Our bodies are made so uniquely. I just think of like our ancestors who might have been out hunting or something and feel a contraction coming on. Well, then after the contraction, they were able to walk or run to where they needed to be safe. And that is so cool about our bodies. So when you're thinking about the process of labor, it's not just a whole day of pain. It's not. It's a process, and you ebb and flow through it all day long. So a lot of women I talked to said, you need to be in shape. You need to be working out in order to do it naturally. Now, I know women have done it naturally and not worked out, but I think it makes it a lot easier. If you're working out to the end of your pregnancy, you are agile, you have good balance, you have stamina, and you need that to get through labor. Also, that allows you to be walking around your bed. That helps you to be squatting down in hard positions, maybe lunging. Also, it's really important that you're working your core during pregnancy. So if you're working your core, you're working your transverse abdominis, it's the muscle group that wraps around your stomach. That's actually the muscle group that you're using to help push out your baby. So on a side note here, I actually developed a whole prenatal workout series. You can click it here or you can read about it all in the description. There's 90 workouts. It is exactly what I did, the core work, the workouts, it's everything I did prior to my last delivery. So check it out because I do think it helps a lot in a natural delivery. The next thing I want to talk about is that I had a fear that after it was the point of no return, like I couldn't get an epidural anymore, I would be like, I can't believe I passed on the epidural. I can report back now that that is not the case. Never once did I regret not getting an epidural. Even when it was really painful at the end during transition and descent, I never was thinking, darn, I wish I had the epidural. I never thought about it again once I had passed. Finally, we are to the point where I hit the fetal ejection reflex. This is crazy. So just so you know, when you're doing contractions, it's more of the same over and over and over again. And then finally your doctor tells you you're at a 10. Okay, well, that's cool. I remember laying on my back and I looked at my husband and I said, I still don't understand how I'm gonna get out this baby. Like nothing had changed. Like I was dilated, but I didn't understand this last part. I was actually planning on not laying on my back. And at the end of the day, I didn't even think about it and I gave birth on my back. But anyway, so I laid on my back. The doctor was across the room and I remember thinking, I'm just gonna engage my stomach a little bit to see what happens, which is what I had been doing through all my contractions. So I squeezed my stomach and I hit that reflex. Like that's all it took for me. So I don't know if it was just a coincidence in time. My body at that moment was completely ready to deliver the baby, or I don't know if that little squeeze just started the process, but it felt, this is the only way I can describe it, it felt like a solid cylinder was in my stomach and I literally felt it lock and load and then just start slowly moving down. And I was not pushing. I could not stop it, which I had heard other women say that you cannot stop the push. That's where I was at. I could feel the baby moving down, swiping away everything in its path, and it was very painful. So I was screaming, a guttural scream, as loud as I could. I've never screamed like that in my whole life. It was painful. I would say this was a 10, but it wasn't a 10 like I just broke my leg. It was a 10 like this is really painful, but I know mentally, I know this is about to end and I'm about to meet my baby. So that's what got me through that. And I did tear. I got 2nd-degree tears. So this is a pro and a con. I know with the fetal ejection reflex, it sometimes takes, like it'll go in shifts. Okay, so like 2 or 3 times. Mine was in a minute. Like from the moment it started, it never stopped. Like I just felt it going. I couldn't do anything to stop it. And the doctor was actually like kind of trying to push the baby in to just let me stretch a little slower, but that baby was coming. So I had 2nd-degree tears, but it was wild. That was the most intense moment of my life. The most memorable thing to me, even besides that, was I felt the baby come out. Like, I feel like the baby's body is imprinted on me forever. I'll never forget what that felt like. And that part wasn't painful. Like once you feel the baby coming out, you just know it's over. And then you get to hold your baby and it's amazing. So before you go, I actually have another video that talks about navigating your body during the postpartum time. I'll put that up here, but that also goes over some tips and encouragement for just navigating all the things that you're then dealing with after your baby's born. Like you just woke up. I figured I would introduce you to the man, the myth, and the legend. Whoop. So thanks so much for being here. Subscribe to my channel if you aren't already, and I hope to see you again real soon.